Alex wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped out of the repair bay. The small human colony on Arendor 7 had been hit by a minor asteroid storm the night before, and debris scattered across the landing platform like broken glass. The morning sun, weak behind a thin cloud of dust, reflected off the metal of the outpost, giving everything a pale silver shine. Alex loved working in these conditions. They were quiet, almost peaceful, even after a storm like this. He walked toward the edge of the colony where the supply pods had landed, scanning the area for damage. His boots crunched over fragments of metal and stone. As the colony's lead engineer, Alex had seen a lot of unusual things in his life, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to find. A soft, almost inaudible cry reached his ears. It was faint, desperate, and strangely melodic. He froze, listening. The sound was coming from the nearby rocks beyond the perimeter. Most colonists avoided that area. It was considered dangerous, home to native wildlife and unpredictable terrain. But Alex didn't hesitate. He followed the sound, moving carefully over jagged stones. Hidden between two large boulders, Alex found her. She was small, no taller than a human child, but with features that made her clearly alien. Her skin shimmered faintly in the morning light, with a pale blue hue that seemed almost transparent in places. Her eyes were large and round, deep violet in color, filled with fear and pain. She had long, thin limbs that looked fragile, and a head slightly larger than a human's proportionally. She was trembling, her breath fast and uneven. Alex's heart tightened. He didn't know what species she was, but it didn't matter. She needed help. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, keeping his voice calm. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien girl flinched but didn't run. That was a good sign. Alex slowly knelt on the ground, keeping his hands visible. "I can take you somewhere safe." "Can you stand?" Her eyes flickered and she tried to move, but her legs wobbled and gave out. Alex quickly scooped her up, careful not to hurt her more. Her skin was cool, almost like a smooth stone, and her small body felt surprisingly light. Back at the outpost, Alex set her down on a clean mat in the medical bay. He didn't know how long she had been out in the open, but her wounds suggested she had been struggling for days. Cuts ran along her arms and legs, some bleeding, some bruised, and there were faint scorch marks on her clothing, if it could even be called clothing. Alex worked quickly, cleaning and dressing the wounds. The girl didn't speak, only watched him with wide, anxious eyes. She flinched when he applied antiseptic, but she didn't pull away. "You're safe now," he said gently. "I won't let anything happen to you here." Hours passed as he treated her injuries. He brought her water and some nutrient paste that the colony used for emergency rations. She took it slowly, hesitating, but eventually drank it. Alex studied her while she ate. There were no visible ears, only small slits on the sides of her head, and no nose, just two tiny openings above a small mouth. Her skin seemed to change color slightly with her emotions, pale blue when scared, faint pink when calm. Despite her injuries, she moved with a strange grace. Alex noticed the way she watched him, tilting her head as if trying to understand. "I don't know your name," he said after a while. "Can you tell me?" She tilted her head again and made a soft sound, almost like a hum. It didn't sound like any human language, but it was rhythmic and melodic. Alex frowned, realizing communication would be a challenge. He had studied alien languages in the academy, but this was unlike anything he had encountered. The sun climbed higher, casting warmer light into the medical bay. Alex took a moment to step outside for fresh air. The colony was quiet, almost deserted. Most humans preferred to stay inside during repair operations. But Alex couldn't stop thinking about the alien girl. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she alone? Returning to the medical bay, he found her sitting up, eyes scanning the room. She seemed more alert now, though still wary. Alex smiled. "You're stronger than you look." She tilted her head, the faint pink tint returning to her skin. He decided to give her a name for now. "I'll call you Lyra," he said softly. "It's easy to remember and it suits you." Lyra made a soft sound in response. It wasn't clear if it was acknowledgement or curiosity, but Alex took it as a start. As night fell, Alex prepared a small bed for her in the corner of the medical bay. He checked the perimeter cameras and ensured the doors were locked. Outside, Arendor 7's twin moons rose, casting silver light across the colony. Lyra lay quietly, watching the shadows, her large eyes reflecting the moons. Alex sat nearby, reviewing repair logs on his tablet. He kept glancing at her, marveling at her resilience. She had been through a lot, and yet she survived. He wondered what dangers she had faced to be here, alone and injured. The colony's automated system buzzed softly, reminding him of routine maintenance. But Alex ignored it. He couldn't focus on machinery when Lyra's presence filled the room. She was fragile, yes, but there was something about her, something human or more, that made him feel protective. At one point, Lyra made a sound again, different from before. It was a series of soft hums, almost like she was trying to speak. Alex leaned closer. He didn't understand the words, but the tone was urgent, almost pleading. He nodded, offering reassurance. "I don't understand you yet," he said, "but I'm listening. I promise I'll help you." Hours passed in silence, except for the occasional hum from Lyra. Alex finally stood, stretching his tired limbs. "Get some rest," he said. "We'll figure this out tomorrow." Lyra watched him, eyes wide and unblinking. Then slowly she curled into her small bed, her skin fading to a calm, pale blue. Alex left the room, keeping the light dim. As he lay in his own quarters, Alex couldn't shake a strange feeling. There was something unusual about Lyra, something more than just her alien appearance. He didn't know it yet, but her presence would change his life in ways he could never imagine, and he didn't know the half of it. Lyra's species had a natural cycle, one that would soon awaken instincts he couldn't anticipate. He had no idea that her behavior, her needs, and even the way she responded to him were about to become far more complicated than mere survival. For now, though, all he could do was watch over her, protect her, and hope that whatever danger had brought her to Arendor 7 had passed. The night stretched on, quiet and still, with two figures, one human, one alien, sharing a room, connected by trust that had only just begun. And deep within Lyra, instincts that Alex could not yet understand began to stir. The next morning, Alex woke early. The colony on Arendor 7 was quiet, save for the low hum of machines repairing the asteroid storm damage. He rubbed his eyes and glanced at the medical bay. Lyra was awake, sitting on the small bed he had made for her. Her skin shimmered faintly in shades of pale blue, a color that seemed to deepen and fade with her mood. She turned her violet eyes toward him as he entered. There was a hint of alertness, but also something he couldn't identify, a restless energy that made her shift slightly, almost like she could not stay still. "Good morning, Lyra," he said softly. "Did you sleep well?" She made a soft, melodic hum in response. It sounded almost like a question, though Alex couldn't understand the meaning. He smiled faintly. "I'll take that as yes." As Alex began preparing her breakfast, soft nutrient paste mixed with water, he noticed more strange behaviors. Lyra watched him intently, her gaze sharp and calculating. Sometimes she flinched at sudden movements, but other times she seemed to anticipate his actions. It was as if she could sense what he would do before he did it. After eating, she wandered slowly around the small room. Alex observed her carefully. Her movements were graceful, almost too precise for someone who had been injured. She paused at the window and looked out toward the rocky terrain beyond the colony. Her eyes flicked rapidly, scanning the distant cliffs and valleys. Then she let out a series of soft hums, urgent and melodic, almost like a song. Alex frowned. "What is it?" he asked, stepping closer. "Are you calling someone?" Lyra looked at him briefly, then back out the window. She shook her head slightly, a gesture that seemed both human and alien at the same time. Alex realized he had no idea how to communicate with her effectively. Her species' language or signals were completely unknown to him. He decided to focus on small steps. "We'll start with basic signs," he said. He made a simple motion, pointing to her food. "Eat?" Lyra tilted her head, then mimicked his motion, pointing to her mouth. Alex nodded. Progress. Over the next few days, he noticed other unusual behaviors. Lyra's energy would spike at odd moments. Sometimes she would pace around the room for hours, her violet eyes bright and alert, skin shifting in color from pale blue to faint pink and back again. Other times, she would suddenly become quiet, curling into a small ball on her bed, almost like she was hiding from invisible dangers. Alex began keeping notes. "She heals fast," he muttered one morning. "Her body is stronger than it looks." He was right. Her wounds were closing quicker than any humans would. Bruises faded in a day, and small cuts were almost gone in 2. Despite her injuries, she seemed drawn to him. Not in a human way, at least not yet, but There was an unmistakable focus in her gaze whenever he entered the room. Alex felt a strange mix of curiosity and caution. He reminded himself that she was an alien, different, unpredictable, and capable of things Alex had barely finished his morning checks when another alarm blared across the colony. This time it was more serious. The external sensors had detected multiple predators moving toward the colony at high speed. These weren't ordinary wildlife. They were large, fast, and unusually coordinated. He ran to the medical bay, his mind racing. Lyra was already awake, pacing the room with her skin flickering in bright shades of pink and violet. Her instincts were heightened, and Alex could feel the tension in the air, almost like static. "Stay close," he instructed, grabbing a stun rifle. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes, then followed without hesitation. Her movements were careful, almost like she knew what was coming. Outside, the predators emerged from the rocky hills surrounding the colony. They were reptilian with sharp claws and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. They paused at the edge of the colony, sniffing the air, drawn to something invisible. Alex immediately realized it was Lyra. He fired a warning shot and the creatures hissed, but they didn't retreat. They were clearly hunting, guided by the alien signals Lyra emitted without knowing it. He had never seen predators respond to her species' signals this way before. It was instinctual, powerful, and dangerous. Alex knew he had to act fast. "Lyra, stay behind me," he shouted. She froze for a moment, eyes wide, then crouched low behind a cluster of crates. He moved forward, firing controlled bursts, trying to scare the predators away without harming them. But there were too many. Alex realized he needed a better plan. He ran back to the medical bay and grabbed several containers of chemical flares used for wildlife deterrence. As he set them around the perimeter, Lyra began moving strangely. Her eyes scanned the predators and she let out a series of melodic hums, sounds that seemed almost like instructions. Alex noticed that the predators hesitated, reacting to her signals as if they were confused or restrained. "Wait, are you controlling them?" he asked aloud, though he knew it sounded impossible. Lyra tilted her head, humming again. The predators shifted direction slightly, moving away from the colony's center. Alex realized that even without understanding her fully, her instincts were helping him. Together, they were forming an unspoken partnership, human strategy combined with alien intuition. The predators circled the colony for hours, testing defenses and observing. Alex kept Lyra inside, monitoring their movements and reinforcing barriers. Each time the creatures approached too closely, Lyra emitted a soft hum and they backed off slightly. It was subtle but effective. By late afternoon, the predators had retreated to the hills, discouraged by the human defenses and Lyra's instinctual signals. Alex exhaled in relief, lowering his rifle. He turned to Lyra, who was sitting quietly on the bed, her skin pale blue once again. "You're incredible," he said softly. "I had no idea. I didn't know you could do that." Lyra tilted her head as if she understood the praise and made a soft sound in response. Alex smiled faintly. Despite her alien nature, a bond had formed. A silent understanding that each could rely on the other. The next few days were a mixture of calm and tension. Alex focused on teaching Lyra small human routines, eating from dishes, responding to simple gestures, and staying safe within the outpost. She learned quickly, but her instincts still showed in subtle ways, quick reactions, heightened awareness, and strange attention to certain colony members. One evening, Alex sat with her by the observation window, looking at the rocky landscape. "I need to learn more about you," he said. "About your species, your home, everything. I can't protect you if I don't understand you." Lyra watched him silently, then made a series of melodic hums that seemed to form patterns. Alex recorded the sounds, hoping to analyze them later. He realized that even without words, communication was happening, through tone, rhythm, and instinct. As he studied the recordings, he noticed subtle patterns in her behavior. Certain shifts in skin color, small twitches, and vocal hums all aligned with heightened emotions. He recognized it as part of her species' natural cycle, something akin to a human hormonal change, but far more pronounced. "This must be why the predators responded to you," he murmured. "Your biology, it's active, strong, and completely natural." The realization made him both worried and impressed. Lyra's instincts were powerful, but uncontrolled, they could attract unwanted attention. Alex understood that protecting her meant not just defending her from outside threats, but also guiding her through her own natural behaviors. That night, the colony went into quiet lockdown. Alex stayed by Lyra's side, keeping the lights dim and the room secure. He noticed her eyes scanning the room constantly, her skin flickering slightly with each sound outside. She wasn't scared, at least not in the usual sense, but alert, tuned to dangers he could not perceive. He reached out and gently placed a hand near hers. She flinched at first, then relaxed slightly under his touch. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe. No one can hurt you here." Her skin shifted to a calm blue and she let out a soft hum, almost like a sigh. Alex realized that trust was forming slowly, through simple gestures, presence, and patience. The following morning brought a new challenge. While Alex was performing routine maintenance outside, a group of colony members approached the medical bay, curious about the alien girl. They had heard rumors of her strange behavior and were cautious, some even fearful. "She's dangerous," one colonist said quietly. "Her species. We don't know what they can do," Alex shook his head. "She's not dangerous. She's injured, scared, and alone. We have to help her." The colonists looked unconvinced, but Alex's firm stance and calm presence convinced them to leave her alone, for now. He knew, however, that the day would come when he would have to explain more about her instincts and biology. Back in the medical bay, Lyra observed the humans silently. Alex noticed her subtle reactions, the way she shifted slightly, skin flickering pink when males approached, eyes widening with focus. He realized that some of her behaviors were instinctual, tied to her species' natural cycles. He sat beside her, studying her carefully. "You're more than just your instincts," he said softly. "You're smart, resourceful, and strong. I'll protect you through this, whatever it takes." Lyra made a soft hum, a sound that felt almost like agreement. Alex smiled faintly. He didn't fully understand her yet, but he knew one thing. Their bond was growing, and it would be the key to surviving the challenges ahead. As night fell over Arendor 7, the moons rose once more, casting silver light over the outpost. Alex kept watch, knowing that the predators and the colony's misunderstandings were just the beginning. Lyra's instincts were awakening, and soon he would have to navigate the delicate balance between care, understanding, and survival. And deep inside Lyra, her biology continued to stir. Her instincts, tied to her species' cycle, were becoming stronger. She didn't yet understand it, but her behavior would soon test both her and Alex in ways neither of them could predict. For now, they were safe, together in the small medical bay. But the world outside was vast, unpredictable, and waiting to challenge them. John woke up earlier than usual. The morning sun poured through the cracked blinds of his small cabin. He rubbed his eyes, stretched, and listened. The woods outside were quiet, only the soft sound of wind against trees and a distant bird's call. But inside the cabin, he could hear something else, light footsteps, careful and soft, moving near the kitchen. He smiled to himself. It was her again. Lyra. When she had first arrived, broken and lost, John had no idea what he was getting into. An alien girl hiding on Earth? That alone was more than any farmer should ever deal with. But over the past days, he had grown used to her presence. She was cautious but curious, shy but thoughtful, and despite not knowing much about his world, she was trying. John walked into the kitchen. Lyra was there, staring at a frying pan like it was some alien device ready to explode. She turned quickly when she heard him. "Oh, John," she said, her accent soft and strange. "I tried to make food." "Like you do," John chuckled. The pan was smoking slightly, eggs half burned. "Well, that's a start," he said kindly, taking the spatula from her hands. "You're not supposed to burn them, you know." She looked embarrassed, but also proud. "I wanted to help." He plated the eggs, black around the edges but edible. "Then you already did." They sat at the small wooden table. For a moment it almost felt normal, like he was having breakfast with a friend. But then John noticed something. Lyra wasn't really eating. She was just poking at the food, her eyes distracted, her movement slower than before. "You okay?" he asked. She froze, as if caught. Then she gave a small nod. "Yes, just tired." But John didn't believe her. He had seen the way she seemed restless at night, walking the floor when she thought he was asleep. He had noticed her sudden silences, like she was fighting something she didn't want to admit. Something was wrong. Later that day, John decided to go into town for supplies. His cabin wasn't far from a small rural settlement, where he usually bought food, tools, and fuel. Lyra wanted to follow him, but he shook his head. Too risky. People will ask questions if they see you, he explained. She frowned, clearly not happy, but she stayed behind. In town, John did his best to act normal. He greeted neighbors, bought some bread and canned goods, and listened to the usual chatter about weather and crops. But he couldn't shake the worry buildies. The next morning, John woke to an unusual silence. The birds outside were still, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. He rubbed his eyes and glanced toward the cabin door. Lyra wasn't in the kitchen where she usually wandered first thing. He stepped quietly into the living area, his stomach tightening. There she was, standing near the window looking out over the woods. Her posture was stiff, almost tense, and her skin was flickering with deep shades of pink and violet. John knew immediately. Her cycle was intensifying. "Lyra?" he called softly. She turned her head slowly, eyes glowing faintly. There was a strange intensity in her gaze, one he had never seen before. Her movements were quick but deliberate, almost predatory. Not dangerous to him, but unpredictable. He realized that whatever instincts were stirring within her were becoming stronger by the hour. "John," she whispered, her voice trembling. I cannot stay calm. It is coming faster than I expected." He stepped closer, hands raised slightly in reassurance. "Then we deal with it together. Just stay with me." She hesitated, then nodded, letting him guide her to sit on the couch. Her hands were shaking slightly, and her breathing was uneven. John could feel the tension radiating off her like heat. He realized that her biology was pushing her into a state he didn't fully understand, and she couldn't control it. By late morning, the cabin felt small and stifling. Lyra was restless, pacing back and forth. Every now and then she paused, staring at John with an intensity that made him step back slightly. He wasn't afraid, but he felt the weight of her instincts pressing on him, like invisible forces he couldn't control. He tried everything he could think of to calm her. Gentle words, soft music, physical presence without touching. Nothing worked fully, though her eyes softened occasionally. "Focus on something else," he urged. "Think about the forest, the stars, anything." Lyra tilted her head, and for a brief moment her skin faded to pale blue. But then the color shifted again, darker, stronger, her violet eyes glinting with instinct-driven energy. John realized that her condition wasn't just discomfort. It could become dangerous if left unchecked. She wasn't aggressive, but her instincts were pushing her to act in ways he could not predict. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that?" Her eyes softened slightly, and she hummed in response. Not words, but acknowledgement. That was enough. The hours stretched on, tension growing like a coiled spring. At one point, John went outside briefly to fetch some water. Lyra followed him, her movements faster than before. She paused at the edge of the forest, sniffing the air as though she could sense something beyond human perception. John kept a careful eye on her. "It's okay. Nothing is out there right now," he reassured her. But Lyra's instincts didn't let her relax. She crouched low, scanning the horizon, every muscle tense. John could see how powerful her senses were, and how they were heightened by her cycle. She could hear things he couldn't, smell dangers he wouldn't notice, and react faster than any human could. A sudden rustle in the bushes made her body stiffen. She let out a low hum, a warning tone. John spun, expecting a predator, but found nothing, only shadows cast by the trees. Lyra's skin flashed violet, signaling her alertness. "Relax," John said gently, though he wasn't sure she could. "There's nothing here." She stayed tense for a long while, until finally the sun began to dip toward the horizon. Her breathing slowed, and her skin shifted back to pale blue, though faint violet streaks remained. John breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He realized that while her instincts were strong, she had learned to trust him enough to calm slightly in his presence. That bond was fragile, but it existed. That evening, John sat beside Lyra on the couch, keeping his hand near hers, not touching, just close enough for her to sense his presence. "You're not alone," he said softly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." She looked at him, violet eyes glimmering with gratitude. She hummed softly, almost like a melody, and for a moment it seemed as if the intensity within her eased. But it wasn't over. A sudden sound outside, The crash of a falling branch made her flinch violently. Her skin flashed violet and pink. She took a step forward instinctively, ready to move before she realized she was still in the cabin. John grabbed her arm gently. "Stop, it's okay. Nothing is out there." Her breathing was fast. I can't control it," she admitted. "It wants movement, freedom," John nodded. He understood now. Her instincts weren't just physical, they were psychological. Her species' natural cycle pushed not only her body but her mind toward heightened awareness, restlessness, and strong urges to act. Left unchecked, it could exhaust her or worse, lead her into danger, he thought quickly. Then we create a controlled space, a place where you can move, release energy, but stay safe. Her eyes widened slightly, and she hummed softly in acknowledgement. John led her to the back of the cabin, where a small clearing in the woods provided a safe area. He had already reinforced the perimeter lightly with simple barriers, enough to keep humans and larger animals away. It wasn't much, but it would work for tonight. "Stay inside the barriers," he instructed. "I'll stay with you, but you have to trust me." Lyra nodded, crouching and then sprinting across the clearing. Her movements were graceful, controlled, but full of energy. She ran in patterns, shifted suddenly, and paused to survey the forest as if her senses were scanning for threats invisible to him. John followed at a safe distance. "Good, keep moving, but stay within the barriers. You're safe here." For hours she ran, paced, and hummed, releasing energy and instinctual tension. John stayed alert, guarding her from any possible danger and watching closely as she adjusted to the cycle's effects. By midnight, Lyra's movements slowed. She crouched, breathing hard, eyes softening. Her skin shifted back to pale blue. She had exhausted her instincts safely under John's guidance. He approached slowly. "You did well," he whispered. She looked at him, tired but relieved. She hummed a soft, contented tone, brushing her fingers against the barrier lightly. John smiled faintly, realizing something important. Lyra's instincts were powerful, but they could be guided with patience, trust, and human ingenuity. She was strong, yes, but she was learning to rely on him, and he had learned to understand her, even if he didn't fully comprehend her biology. As they walked back to the cabin, John felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. Tonight they had survived her cycle safely, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. The cycle would return stronger, longer, or more unpredictable, and he would need to be ready, for her sake and for theirs. Inside the cabin, Lyra finally rested, curling into a small ball on the couch. John sat nearby, watching her, keeping silent vigil. He didn't fully understand her species' biology yet, but he had discovered one truth: empathy, courage, and patience could guide even the most alien instincts. And deep inside, Lyra's body and mind were finally at rest, knowing she was protected, understood, and not alone. Tomorrow, the challenge would come again, but for tonight they had survived. Together. The morning light spilled across the cabin, soft and calm. For the first time in days, John woke to quiet. Lyra was sitting near the window, watching the forest. Her skin was a gentle pale blue, and the restless energy that had plagued her during the cycle had finally ebbed. John smiled as he stretched. He had slept little, but tonight he had seen progress, real progress. She had made it through the peak of her instincts safely, guided by his presence, and she was stronger because of it. "Good morning," he said softly, walking toward her. Lyra turned her violet eyes toward him, and for a moment there was no hesitation, no nervousness, just trust. "Good morning, John," she replied, her voice calm and steady. He sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" Her gaze flickered to her hands, then back to him. "Better, stronger. I could not have done it alone." "You helped me," John nodded, "and I will keep helping you, no matter what comes next." For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the depth of what they had shared. It wasn't just survival or instinct anymore. It was understanding, a bond that went beyond words, beyond species, even beyond worlds. That day they worked quietly around the cabin. Lyra moved with careful grace, helping John carry supplies and organize tools. Each motion reminded him of how adaptable she was. Her alien body, once so foreign and delicate, now moved with strength and purpose. "See? You're learning fast," John said, handing her a small container of screws. She hummed softly, a sound that had become her way of showing acknowledgement. "I might watch you. I learn." He realized something important. Lyra's instincts, once seen as a challenge, had also made her highly perceptive. She noticed details he sometimes missed, anticipated actions, and adapted quickly. The very traits that had made him cautious before were now part of what made her remarkable. "Soon you won't need me as much," he said with a grin. "You'll handle things on your own." She tilted her head, a small smile forming. "I hope so. But I trust you." Those words, simple as they were, struck John deeply. Trust was the foundation of everything they had built over these past days. Without it, survival would have been impossible. With it, they had overcome instinctual challenges that neither of them fully understood. That afternoon, John decided it was time to test her limits safely. He led her to the forest clearing behind the cabin. The barriers were in place, reinforced from before, and